My husband skipped our 5th anniversary dinner. I sat alone at a candlelit table while he whispered sweet lies to another woman. He thought I didn't know, thought I'd cry and wait. But when he came home, he found something he never expected. A house as empty as his promises. The restaurant smelled of vanilla and fresh roses. The flickering candlelight cast golden hues across the empty chair in front of me. A bottle of expensive red wine sat between the untouched dinner plates, its deep crimson color matching the lipstick I had carefully applied an hour earlier. The table was set for two, but only one seat was occupied. Mine. The waiter approached cautiously, his eyes shifting to the vacant chair before settling on me. "Would you like me to keep the food warm a little longer, ma'am?" I gave him a polite smile, though my hands tightened around the silk napkin in my lap. "No," I said quietly. "He'll be here soon." I lied. Justin wasn't coming. I had known that before I even made the reservation. Yet I sat there staring at my reflection in the gleaming silverware, forcing myself to relive the memories of what our marriage used to be. 5 years ago, Justin and I had vowed to stand by each other through everything. I remembered the way he had looked at me on our wedding day, his hazel eyes filled with love, his fingers trembling as he slipped the ring onto my finger. He had whispered forever like it was a promise written in the stars. And for a long time I believed him. The first 4 years of our marriage were everything I had dreamed of. We weren't the couple that needed extravagant gestures or over-the-top declarations of love. No, our love was in the small things. The way he kissed my forehead before leaving for work, the way we danced in the kitchen on lazy Sunday mornings, the way he always reached for my hand in a crowded room. We had built a life together, a life that felt whole even without children. It was a decision we had made early on. Not because we didn't love the idea of family, but because we were happy with just each other. I never felt like anything was missing. Until Justin changed. Before everything fell apart, our life had been a rhythm of love and companionship. We had our little traditions. Friday night movie marathons, late night drives to nowhere. The way he always brought me my favorite coffee on busy mornings. He made me laugh in ways no one else could, with that mischievous grin and those ridiculous impressions of my favorite TV characters. Even our fights were short-lived, ending in whispered apologies and soft kisses. We were a team unshaken by the storms that life threw at us. But what they don't tell you about love is that sometimes, it doesn't shatter with a loud crash. Sometimes, it fades so slowly that you don't even realize it's slipping through your fingers. It started with small things. Missed texts, delayed responses, moments where his attention was somewhere else. At first I convinced myself it was just stress from work. Justin had always been ambitious, always pushing himself harder than necessary. "Sorry babe. Just a crazy day," he'd say, kissing my temple as he rushed past me toward his laptop. I wanted to believe that was all it was. But then our conversations started to change. They became shorter, more surface level. He stopped asking about my day. The late nights at work became more frequent. The inside jokes we used to share started fading into silence. I caught him staring at his phone more than usual, smiling at messages he never let me see. And when I reached for him in bed, his body felt colder, like he was already somewhere else. One evening as I was folding laundry, Justin walked into the room, still dressed in his office clothes. His tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled up, and he looked distracted. "I might have to travel for work next month," he said casually, tossing his keys onto the table. Something in my stomach twisted. "Where?" "Just a conference out of state." He barely met my eyes. Justin had never traveled for work in the past 5 years. His company rarely sent employees out of town, and when they did, it was always pre-planned months in advance. I knew this because I used to be the first person he told about anything work-related. He walked into the bathroom before I could ask more. But as the sound of the shower filled the silence, I picked up his phone from the counter. It was locked. Justin never used to lock his phone. A chill ran down my spine. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, pretending I had seen nothing. But the doubt had already taken root. That night I curled up next to Justin, searching for the warmth we once had. I traced my fingers along his arm the way I always did when I needed reassurance. He didn't pull away, but he didn't pull me closer either. "Are you happy?" I asked softly. There was a long pause. "Of course I am," he finally said, pressing a brief kiss to my forehead. But his voice lacked the certainty it once held. And that was the moment I knew. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I didn't need it. My marriage was slipping away, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I could hold on. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house around me. The bedside clock glowed 12:17 a.m. Justin still wasn't home. I reached for my phone, hesitating before tapping the call button. The line rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. My chest tightened. I set the phone down on the nightstand and exhaled slowly, trying to ignore the weight pressing against my ribs. I told myself I wouldn't do this, wouldn't let my mind spiral every time he worked late. But this wasn't just late. This was different. Something had changed, and no matter how much I tried to deny it, I felt it deep in my bones. At first, I had convinced myself it was nothing. Work had been stressful for Justin. He had more responsibilities, more deadlines. He had always been ambitious, always pushed himself harder than necessary. But then the late nights became more frequent. The excuses more rehearsed. And the worst part? The way he spoke to me about it. Calm, collected, completely unbothered. "Babe, I told you we're on a huge project right now," he had said last week when I asked why he had been coming home past midnight. I had nodded, forcing a smile. "I just miss you, that's all." And I did. I missed him. I missed us. But he had only given me a distracted kiss on the forehead before grabbing his laptop and heading into the other room. It wasn't just the late nights. It was everything. Justin used to be warm, affectionate, present. Even on his busiest days, he always found little ways to remind me I was loved. A quick text during the day, a lingering touch as he passed by, an inside joke whispered into my ear in a crowded room. But now it was different. The kisses were still there, but they were automatic, barely more than habit. The words, "I love you," were spoken, but they felt empty, like he was reciting lines from a script. And worst of all, he had stopped seeing me. I tested it one evening. I stood in the kitchen while he sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. I didn't say anything. I just stood there waiting for him to notice. Minutes passed. Nothing. When I finally spoke, he glanced up briefly before muttering a short response, his eyes never fully meeting mine. Something inside me cracked. The silence between us wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy. I tried bringing it up once. "Are we okay?" I asked softly one night as we lay in bed. Justin didn't answer immediately. He let out a long breath, rubbing his temples. "Rach, I'm just stressed, okay? Work is insane right now." I wanted to believe him. But the way he said it, the way he brushed me off so easily, made my stomach twist. Before he would have talked to me, he would have shared his stress, his frustrations, his plans for the future. Now he just existed beside me like I was another piece of furniture in the house. And that was when I knew. He wasn't just tired. He wasn't just busy. He was pulling away. I had always trusted my instincts. And right now my instincts were screaming at me. Justin was hiding something. It wasn't just his absence or the way he barely looked at me anymore. It was the small things. The way he always kept his phone face down on the table. The way he suddenly had a password on it when he never had before. The way he would smile at his screen, a soft, secretive smile he hadn't given me in months. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking, that I was just insecure. But deep down I knew better. Something was wrong. And if he wasn't going to tell me the truth, I had no choice but to find it myself. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The name on the door in front of me read, Michael Harrington, Private Investigations. I had been staring at it for 5 minutes, debating whether I was really about to do this. Hiring a private investigator felt extreme. Like something people did in movies, not in real life. Not in my life. But Justin had left me no choice. I wasn't the kind of woman who snooped through her husband's things. I wasn't the kind of wife who played games or made accusations without proof. But I also wasn't a fool. And I refused to be lied to any longer. Taking a deep breath, I opened the car door and stepped out. This was it. The moment before everything changed. Because once I walked through that door, there would be no more pretending. No more excuses. No more lies. Only the truth. And I was finally ready to face it. The cold air hit my face as I stepped out of the investigator's office, my hands gripping the folder tighter than necessary. The weight of it pressed against my chest, heavier than it should have been. Inside were pictures, timestamps, and undeniable proof of what I had already known in my heart. Justin wasn't working late. He wasn't exhausted from meetings or drowning in deadlines. He was with her. A woman I had never met. A stranger who somehow knew my husband in ways I no longer did. The images weren't just proof of an affair, they were a funeral for the marriage I thought I had. But even as I sat in my car, staring at the stack of evidence in my lap, I found myself hesitating. A small, foolish part of me still clung to something fragile and aching inside. Hope. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe. No. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. I needed to see it for myself. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent hours planning something I wasn't even sure I could go through with. Our 5th anniversary was only days away. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of love, laughter, and shared dreams. And now 5 years ending in betrayal. But I wouldn't let it end on his terms. So I did something reckless. Something desperate. I planned a grand anniversary dinner. One last, elaborate attempt at salvaging the remains of what we once had. I made the reservations at one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, the kind of place Justin and I used to dream about when we were younger, when we didn't have the money but had each other. I called ahead, making sure every detail was perfect. The private dining room. The candlelit table for two. The expensive wine I knew he loved. I wanted to believe that if he showed up, maybe, just maybe, there was still something worth saving. But deep down I knew better. The afternoon of our anniversary, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the bracelet Justin had given me on our first anniversary. My reflection stared back at me, a woman who looked composed, but whose heart was breaking in slow, quiet cracks. I took a deep breath, picked up my phone and called him. The phone rang twice before he answered. "Hey babe," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "What's up?" I gripped the edge of the dresser. "Happy anniversary." There was a pause. Just a second too long. "Ah yeah. Happy anniversary," he said quickly, like it had just slipped his mind. "Listen, I meant to tell you, work's a mess today. I've got this last-minute thing I can't get out of. Can we celebrate later this week?" His voice was effortless, as if he had rehearsed the lie 100 times before saying it out loud. I swallowed hard, keeping my voice steady. "You're at the office?" "Yeah." A sharp, bitter laugh bubbled up inside me, but I pushed it down. "Okay," I whispered. "I understand." As I did understand. I understood that he had made his choice. I just hadn't realized until that moment how easy it had been for him. I arrived at the hotel early, my fingers tracing the rim of the wine glass as I sat alone in the candlelit room. The waiter had already come by twice, asking if I wanted to order. I told him I was waiting for my husband. Another lie. The restaurant was beautiful, soft music playing in the background, the warm flicker of candlelight dancing across the polished silverware. It should have been romantic. It should have been a night filled with love, laughter, and celebration. Instead, I sat alone, staring at the empty chair across from me, feeling like a ghost in my own life. And then my phone buzzed. I didn't want to look. I already knew. But my hands moved anyway, unlocking the screen, opening the message from the investigator. The first image hit me like a punch to the stomach. Justin sitting at a dimly lit bar, leaning in close to her. The second image, his hand resting on her thigh. The third, his lips grazing her ear as she laughed. And then the worst one. A video. My breath caught in my throat as I hit play. He was smiling. Smiling. The way he used to smile at me. Whispering something into her ear. Holding her hand under the table. Looking at her like she was the center of his universe. I set my phone down carefully, my hands numb. I had been right all along. And yet nothing could have prepared me for the finality of it. Justin wasn't mine anymore. Hadn't been for a long time. Strangely, I felt calm. There were no tears. No heartbreak. No gut-wrenching agony like I had expected. Just a cold, eerie stillness inside me. Because now I saw it clearly, Justin had already left me. He had just forgotten to tell me. The realization didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. It was freeing in a way. The uncertainty was gone. For the first time in months, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to scream or demand answers he would never give me. I was going to leave. And this time he would be the one coming home to an empty house. I stood up, smoothing the fabric of my dress as I placed a few bills on the table. The waiter rushed over, concern etched on his face. "Ma'am, is everything all right? Your husband." "He won't be coming," I said simply. I turned and walked out without looking back. My next steps were already mapped out in my head. I would go home, pack my things, and disappear from his life before he even had a chance to realize what had happened. I wasn't going to waste another second waiting for a man who had already replaced me. And when he finally came home expecting a wife who would cry and forgive him, he would find something else instead. A house as empty as his promises. The heels of my shoes clicked against the marble floor as I stepped out of the restaurant and into the crisp night air. A gentle breeze brushed against my face, but I barely felt it. My hands were steady. My heartbeat was not. I had spent the last 2 hours sitting at that table, watching the candle burn down, watching the wine breathe in its glass, watching the anniversary that never was slowly collapse in front of me. I had felt every moment of it. Every second of betrayal settling into my bones like a weight I could never shake off. But now it was time. I pulled my phone out of my bag and scrolled through my messages, stopping at the last one from the private investigator. The proof was there. All of it. I took a slow breath, my thumb hovering over the screen. One final step. Then it would all be over. It had been surreal, sitting at that candlelit table, the soft hum of restaurant chatter surrounding me, the sound of wine being poured at nearby tables, laughter drifting from couples who still had something worth celebrating. But not me. I had sat there, motionless, staring at the flickering candle in front of me, letting it burn down along with any last illusion I had about my marriage. The food had arrived, steak cooked just the way Justin liked it, a side of roasted vegetables that I had ordered without thinking. It sat untouched, the steam rising in soft curls, filling the space between me and the empty chair across the table. I had thought about reaching for the wine, about numbing the ache in my chest. But I wanted to feel this moment. I needed to. So I sat there, letting the betrayal sink in, letting the truth settle into the deepest parts of me, letting go of the woman I had been before tonight. Because once I walked out of that restaurant, I wasn't just leaving dinner. I was leaving him. I had spent months waiting for an explanation that never came. Waiting for Justin to see me again. Waiting for things to go back to the way they were. I had waited in our home, sitting alone on the couch, staring at the clock as the hours passed and his excuses grew thinner. I had waited for him to tell me the truth even though I already knew it. I had waited for him on our anniversary at a table set for two, hoping, against all logic, that he would show up. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I had cried my last tear for this man. And now all that was left was action. I reached into my bag, my fingers closing around the envelope I had prepared before coming here. The divorce papers. Already signed. Already final. I wasn't going to ask for explanations. I wasn't going to beg for closure. I was going to take it. I scrolled through the messages from the private investigator one last time. The images weren't blurry, weren't vague or misleading. They were undeniable. Justin's hand on her back, guiding her into the restaurant. His fingers grazing her cheek. The way he leaned in close, smiling, whispering something into her ear, words that used to be mine. And then the video. A short clip, no more than 20 seconds, but it was enough. Enough to destroy any remaining doubt. Enough to end whatever was left of my marriage. I clicked the download button, saving the files onto my phone. A cold calm settled over me. There would be no yelling. No dramatic confrontation. No tearful goodbyes. Justin had already made his choice. Now I was making mine. I opened our text thread, the same one that had once been filled with love notes, inside jokes and midnight confessions. Now it was empty. Just a few brief, impersonal exchanges. A reminder of how far we had drifted. My hands didn't shake as I attached the photos and video. I didn't hesitate as I typed the message. Happy anniversary, Justin. Consider this my gift to you. I hit send. And then I sat back watching as the message was delivered. For a moment nothing happened. Just silence. Then 3 dots. He was typing. But I didn't stay to read whatever excuse he was scrambling to come up with. I didn't care anymore. I put my phone on silent, slipped it back into my bag and stood up. Justin could deal with his mistakes alone. The night air was crisp as I stepped out of the restaurant, the city lights stretching endlessly before me. I breathed in, letting the coldness settle inside me. I wasn't just leaving dinner. I was leaving the life I had built with him. I had made sure of it before I came here tonight. I had packed everything I needed. My clothes, my important documents, the pieces of myself that weren't tied to him. By the time Justin walked into our home tonight, expecting to explain away the undeniable, expecting to smooth talk his way out of the truth, he would find something else entirely. An empty house. No pictures on the walls. No clothes in the closet. No familiar scent of my perfume lingering in the air. Just silence. Just the hollow echo of the life he threw away. And when he called me, panicked, scrambling for an explanation, desperate for damage control, he wouldn't find me, as I was already gone. Justin pulled into the driveway, his heart pounding so hard it nearly drowned out the hum of the engine. The porch light was off and the windows were dark. Something felt off, wrong. He cut the ignition and sat still for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady his breath. His phone was still in his lap, the last message from Rachel burning in his mind. "Happy anniversary, Justin. Consider this my gift to you." And attached to it, the photos, the videos, the evidence. He had barely been able to process what he was seeing when he excused himself from the table at the restaurant, his hands shaking as he fumbled for his keys. He had whispered some pathetic excuse to the woman sitting across from him, barely hearing himself speak. Now as he stared at the front door of his house, their house, a deep, unfamiliar dread settled in his chest. He had expected Rachel to be home, waiting, angry, demanding answers. He had prepared himself for a fight, for begging, for whatever it would take to smooth things over. But he wasn't prepared for this. The door creaked open and a rush of cool air met him. The house was silent. Not the usual kind of quiet, the peaceful kind that settled after a long day. This was different. This was empty. Justin stepped inside, his shoes echoing against the hardwood floor. He reached for the light switch, flicking it on. His breath caught in his throat. The walls were bare. The console table near the door, where Rachel always kept a small vase of fresh flowers, was empty. The couch, the bookshelves, the carefully placed decorations that Rachel had picked out over the years, gone. His throat tightened as he stepped further in. The picture frames that had once lined the hallway, their wedding photos, the candid shots from vacations, the little pieces of their life together, all missing. It was as if Rachel had never lived here at all. Justin moved through the house, room by room, his heartbeat rising with every step. The bedroom door was open, the closet doors wide apart. Empty. Rachel's dresses, her shoes, the delicate jewelry box he had given her on their first anniversary, gone. The bathroom counter, once cluttered with her perfume bottles and makeup, was wiped clean. The faint scent of vanilla, the scent that had always reminded him of her, was missing. The kitchen too had been stripped. The magnets that once held grocery lists and silly notes on the fridge were no longer there. The coffee mugs she used every morning, vanished. Justin swallowed hard, stepping back, his hands gripping his phone. It wasn't just that Rachel had left. She had erased him. Erased them. Like they had never existed. His legs felt weak as he sank onto the edge of the bed, or what used to be their bed. It didn't even feel like his anymore. Rachel hadn't just packed her bags in a hurry. She hadn't left in anger, shoving things into a suitcase in a fit of rage. No. This was carefully planned. Methodical. She had made sure he knew. Made sure he understood that she wasn't coming back. His eyes flicked to the nightstand. A single white envelope sat on top of it. His fingers trembled as he reached for it. Inside were the divorce papers. Already signed. No notes. No explanations. Just an ending. Final, unforgiving ending. Justin exhaled shakily, pressing his hand to his forehead. He had never thought she would actually leave. Not like this. Not without a word. His phone slipped from his grip, landing on the bed beside him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. He had imagined so many different scenarios on the way home. Rachel screaming at him, throwing things, demanding to know why. But this silence was worse. There was no fight. No last-minute pleas. No chances. Just emptiness. He ran a hand over his face, his chest tight. He could still hear the echo of Rachel's voice in his head, the way she used to say his name, the way she used to laugh. The house had always been full of her. Now it was just him. And he had never felt so alone. His phone buzzed. For a brief, foolish second, hope flickered inside him. He snatched it up, praying for a message, a chance, anything. But it wasn't Rachel. It was the other woman. "Hey, everything okay? You left so suddenly." Justin stared at the screen, a bitter taste in his mouth. Suddenly he felt sick. He stood abruptly, pacing the length of the room. His thoughts were a mess, tangled between regret and realization. Rachel hadn't needed to scream at him. She hadn't needed to demand answers. She had known that the moment he walked into this house, empty, lifeless, stripped of everything they had built together, he would understand. And he did. He had lost her. Not just in the way people lose each other over time. Not in a way that could be fixed with apologies or promises. No. This was permanent. This was his fault. And the worst part? Rachel wasn't coming back. Justin's breath was uneven as he stood in the middle of the empty kitchen. His pulse pounded in his ears, drowning out the silence that surrounded him. The house, their home, was nothing but a hollow shell now, stripped of life, stripped of her. His gaze landed on the only thing left behind. A single white envelope sat on the kitchen counter, perfectly centered, almost mocking in its simplicity. It didn't belong there. Nothing belonged there anymore. Justin swallowed, his throat dry as he took slow, hesitant steps forward. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the envelope, his fingers brushing against the smooth paper. A part of him wanted to leave it untouched, to pretend it wasn't real. But it was real, just like the ache settling in his chest, just like the unmistakable void surrounding him. He exhaled sharply and tore the envelope open. The first thing he saw was the divorce papers. His name. Her name. The marriage they had built, now reduced to a few printed pages waiting for his signature. He let out a shaky breath, flipping through the documents. She had already signed them. No questions. No second chances. It was over. His eyes flickered to the second item. A USB drive, small and unassuming. But he knew what it held. The evidence. Proof of everything he had tried to hide, everything he had told himself didn't matter. A sick feeling coiled in his stomach. He didn't need to plug it in to know what was inside. The videos. The photos. The receipts of his betrayal. Rachel hadn't confronted him. She hadn't screamed or cried. She had simply collected every piece of his dishonesty and left it for him to face alone. Justin's fingers curled around the drive before he set it down next to the papers, his heart hammering against his ribs. And then he saw the final item. A small handwritten note folded neatly. He unfolded it, his eyes scanning the familiar slant of her handwriting. Happy anniversary. Consider this your last surprise. The words stared back at him. No anger. No emotion. No plea for an explanation. Just finality. Justin read it once. Then again. His chest tightened. It wasn't the words themselves that shattered him, it was what they meant. Rachel was gone. Not just in the sense that she had packed her things and left. She had walked away from him completely. No fights. No begging. No desperate attempts to fix what was already broken. She had let go of him like he was nothing. Like their 5 years together had meant nothing. Justin's hands clenched the paper, but there was no satisfaction in crushing it. No undoing what had already been done. Because he had done this. He had made her feel replaceable. And now she had returned the favor. Justin staggered back, pressing a hand to his forehead. His mind was racing, a tangled mess of regret, disbelief, and something far more painful, realization. She had really left. And she wasn't coming back. The truth crashed over him in waves, each one heavier than the last. Rachel had been his constant, his safe place, his home. And he had treated her like an option. He had spent the night whispering empty promises to someone else, not realizing that his wife, the woman who had stood by him, loved him, fought for him, was already making sure she wouldn't be there when he got back. He had chosen wrong. And now he was left with nothing. Justin clenched his jaw, his body rigid with the weight of his choices. He should call her. He should do something. But as he stared down at the divorce papers, at her signature etched neatly at the bottom, he knew there was nothing left to say. The silence in the house was suffocating. It pressed against him, filling every corner, every inch of space where Rachel had once been. The house had always been theirs, filled with her laughter, her warmth, the soft hum of her presence. Now it was just walls and furniture. A place stripped of meaning. He moved to the living room, his eyes scanning the bare walls, the empty shelves. His fingers hovered over the spot where their wedding picture used to hang. She had taken everything. Everything except the weight of what he had done. Justin exhaled shakily, sinking onto the couch. It was too late. She had given him chances. Given him time. And he had wasted every second of it. For the first time in his life, Justin felt the true sting of consequences. Not the kind he could fix with an apology. Not the kind he could smooth over with excuses. This was permanent. Rachel had walked away from him the same way he had walked away from their marriage, without hesitation. And now he was left with the bitter truth. She had moved on. And he would have to live with the fact that she had been right too. Justin sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the papers in front of him. At the life he had taken for granted. At the love he had lost. His phone buzzed, snapping him out of the daze. He grabbed it, his heart racing. For a split second, hope surged through him. But it wasn't Rachel. It was the other woman. "Hey, everything okay? You left so suddenly." Justin's grip tightened around the phone, his stomach twisting. She didn't matter. He had never mattered. He had risked everything for something so meaningless. No. Now he had lost the one person who had truly loved him. His chest ached as he stared at the message. Rachel wasn't going to forgive him. Rachel wasn't going to come back. Rachel had already moved on. And for the first time, Justin truly understood. This wasn't just a breakup. This was his ending.